In the late 2000s, one tween franchise decided it was going to ruin vampires for absolutely everyone by throwing sparkles on shit. So back when I watched Daybreakers, I wasn't in the best place for vampires because, let's be honest, most of us were burnt out on them by that point and were sick of seeing said tween franchise absolutely everywhere. It was inescapable at the time. Now, I should probably like Daybreakers because it includes three things that I genuinely really like, and that is gritty dystopian, medical science, and blue blood elitist vampires. Like, one of my favourite things in the entire world is Vampire the Masquerade, and if you know which one of the 13 clans you are, please leave it down in the comment section down below because I want to know how many people that are actually watching this video are players as well. I am a salubri if anybody is curious. But back to Daybreakers. The reason that this movie is getting a second chance is because my girlfriend said that I should watch this movie again because the ending was really good, and I don't remember the ending at all. So if this movie manages to change my mind, it has her to thank for this. But if you don't know anything about Daybreakers from 2009, let me quickly fill you in. With 95% of the population being turned into vampires and blood supplies running low, it is up to a vampire scientist to find a solution to the shortage while working with a covert band of vampires to find a way to save humankind. If you're new here, I go by Hordes and I talk about all things horror here on my channel on Mondays and Fridays, but as always when it comes to watching movies, I am now going to go and watch Daybreakers off camera, so that way if you haven't seen this movie and you would still like to watch it, nothing will be spoilt for you, because nobody wants to watch a movie they've just watched somebody else watch from start to finish. Best surprise! I got cold, let's just go with it. I'm now wearing my Boys Get Sad Too hoodie. To make a very niche reference, this movie reminds me of the game Buffy the Vampire Slayer Chaos Bleeds, if you ever played it. Before Ethan Rain turns up, on the 3rd level, Xander, Willow and Tara go to this like abandoned factory that vampires have taken over, and they're using the heavy machinery to like harvest human victims for blood. It reminds me of that, but on a much larger scale, higher budget version. I think the design for this like world that the vampires have built is really cool looking. The fact that everything is blue-green, like tinted to imply that everything is happening at night, even though you can't see any of the darkness going on. I like the use of technology. I think that that could have been pushed a little bit further, considering that this is like a dystopian, techno-based kind of city. And I think that the city could probably have been used a little bit more, because what you really see of it is cool looking, but it's a train platform station that's got a coffee kiosk, and then the inside of the facility that Dr. Edward works at. And I think that had they included more of this, it would have been, I'd have been a bit more into this movie. There's a lot of like other random locations in this movie that, you know, I could have done without, and I'll get to that when I talk about the plot.
I'll bring the snacks!
Plot-wise, there is so many secondary filler plots that I could have done without because they had such a knock-on effect on the pacing of this movie. The main plot is you follow Dr. Edward, played by Ethan Hawke, and Elvis, played by Willam Defoe, as they try and find a cure for being vampires, because you find out that Elvis at one point was a vampire who has become human. That's cool. Secondary plots, you then find out there's a convoy of people that I don't really care about. Then you find out that Sam Neill's character Charles is trying to turn his rogue daughter into a vampire, which is again another kind of like throwaway plot because it happens and then nothing is made of it. And then you've got all of these things to do with the military that keep coming into it that aren't really, you know, they're not there to develop the plot. They happen for filler, and then you get back to the main plot again. So do I like, if there had been more of the main plot, that would have been fine. I could have done without like one or two of the secondary plots being thrown in there to like slow down the pacing. It was a bit too much, and it felt at times like they were just trying to drag out this movie. I do think that using the TV reports though is a really good use. It's the only secondary plot really that I can get behind in this, because they're used sporadically to kind of add tension and tell you that something is really going wrong within this world of vampires, and it adds a little bit of tension, but there's not enough of them for what actually happens in this movie.
Balance.
This leads me on though to the effects in this movie. The full prosthetic vampires in this movie, they're fine, but they're purely aesthetic. Like, they don't do anything. You get told that these things are like feral, but they're hardly used, which kind of sucks. Like, they do remind me a bit of the harpies from Van Helsing to look at. But you get told that when vampires are depraved from blood, they turn into these feral, massive human bat things. Like, what you would expect for a feral vampire. But you hardly see them. So there isn't this, like, the threat isn't there. You're told about it, but you're not shown it enough. So when the ending happens and they've found this cure and everything kicks off, the build-up doesn't justify the extent that this ending decides to go to. Like, the most of this movie is travelling on at, say, 30%. Some of it amps itself up to about 70%. And then at the end, it just says, fuck it, let's throw everything in the kitchen sink into that final 10 minutes. And it just comes out nowhere. And it's like, why have we decided this is the moment to suddenly become this feral vampire movie that's finally got some teeth? There is some wonderfully questionable CGI in this. Most of it involves cars or fire or both, because why not? I also think that when the vampires explode, somebody bought a batch job of flash paper, aka pyro paper. If you've ever worked in film or theatre, you'll know what this stuff is, because every time a vampire explodes in this, it just rains pyro paper for fun. I hate to say this, but I still think that Daybreakers is meh, because I don't think that this movie has been executed particularly well. The concept is great, but the execution it lets down this movie so hard. Like, the only reason to watch this movie is Ethan Hawke's as Dr. Edward and Willam Defoe as Elvis. Like, Willam Defoe has some great one-liners in this movie. I mean, you could also include Sam Neill in this, who plays the villain, but he's not really a villain. He's just a big corporate boss guy. But it's got no teeth. For a vampire movie, it's got no bite, and that's what I'm missing. I need the grittiness and this, like, sense of, like, urgency. You're racing to find a cure so that millions and millions of vampires don't turn into these feral giant bat things. But the sense of urgency isn't there. And I hate to say that, and the humans are just kind of there because they need to be. In the end, I would probably still give Daybreakers a 2.5 out of 5 stars, because I enjoy it more than Catacombs, and I certainly enjoyed it more than Creep, but I would still say that it's still a very meh movie. It is a very 2009 movie, we'll put it that way. Would I watch it again? Probably not, unless somebody put it on in the background, and, you know, I'd probably tune in and out of it. Like, I'd probably get more out of the movie if I tuned in and out of it, because I could then forget all the secondary plots are in it. So yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Like, down the road, Ethan Hawke went on to be the grabber in Black Phone, which I think is a better movie, and Willem Dafoe went on to be in The Lighthouse, where you get to see Willem Dafoe be his full Willem Dafoe. So it's fine. It's not great. It's fine. So, to my girlfriend, I gave it a chance. I still think it's meh. So there you have it, my initial thoughts and my review for my second chance rewatch of Daybreakers from 2009. If you've seen this movie, I would love to know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below, and don't forget to leave me your Vampire the Masquerade clans as well. If you would like to know every single horror movie that I watch, not just the ones I talk about here on YouTube, you can find me over on Instagram and Letterboxd at HordesOfHorror, and I will be back on Monday with another solo movie review, because I love a what the hell movie. And I honestly think that I might have actually outdone myself with this next one, because if I said to you, stop motion set in the 80s, you're in for a treat. So until next time, bye.